Hello, everyone. I am Christine Gritmon, and welcome to Let's Talk About Brand. I do this show every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, where I talk to very smart people about branding. And I also have a Twitter chat on Tuesdays, also at noon Eastern Time, called Chat About Brand. That is always on the same topic as the Friday show. Today I'm very excited. We're going to be talking to Amy Caiger, and I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm pretty sure that's right. But we're going to be talking to the wonderful Amy about niching and what that means and how to do it and how you can really use it to strengthen your brand, especially your personal brand. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring Amy on. Hey, Amy.
Hello.
Hello.
Love the clapping.
So first of all, did I pronounce it right? Is it Caiger?
You did.
All right.
You did pronounce it correctly.
Good. That's always what I hope to do. So now your niche is niching. Your niche is helping other people find their niche. So before we talk about what that even means or how people can do it themselves, I would love to hear from you how that became your niche.
Yeah, so I worked in marketing for many years. And then I started my own business doing something quite different. I was an art consultant. But through doing that, I started to work. I worked with a lot of artists and knew a lot of other gallerists and things as well through that. But as I had the marketing experience, people started coming to me and asking me to help them with elements of their marketing. And so that's where what I do now kind of started really. And through helping those businesses, I did all sorts of things. I very much did kind of anything to do with marketing. I was the more jack of all trades when I started, which I know a lot of people do. But what I was finding that I was helping my clients with certain aspects of marketing, like social media or emails or websites or things like that. But what I started finding was that people were finding those things difficult, not necessarily because of the tech aspects or whatever, but it was because they weren't clear on who they were helping, what their business was about from themselves. And so therefore they didn't really know what to say because they didn't know who they were talking to. They didn't know what they wanted to say. So that's when I started to focus on helping people purely with that and getting really clear on that. So then they would then find all those other activities, when they actually got into working on their marketing plans, so much more easy, or hopefully much easier, because they would know then what they wanted to say.
Now, did your art gallery have a niche or was it kind of general?
It was, well, it's still going actually. My mum does it now. But it was a lot of abstract art, a lot of bright colors and things like that. But yeah. So
cool.
A little bit different.
So I feel like you kind of defined niche already in terms of kind of knowing who you are, what you're saying, who you're talking to. What are you know what? I think we actually. So when someone is trying to when someone is trying to niche down, first of all, how do people know when it's time to niche down? Like, how do you know if you're niche down enough, or if you really do need to get more specific?
So I think, getting clear on a niche is very much a journey. Like, you don't. It's not once it's done, it's done. It's something that is always constantly evolving, and I think people get too caught up in they need to get it sorted, like kind of going from no niche to a really, really, really like pinpointed specific niche. But actually there's a journey as we go along. And the idea is that you're just getting clearer and more focused as you go. So it's something you can work on. The more clients you work with, you might see a pattern. The more you're doing certain aspects of your business, so maybe your services, and you start to think, actually, I'm doing more of this type of service, or actually, I think of a better way of doing this service. So it's something that you can constantly be evolving and tweaking. But the whole idea of having a niche is so you can create better connections with your clients. So that's why it is a process that is a process. It keeps happening because the more you get to know your ideal clients, your perfect clients, the more you can tailor things to them in your business to connect with them so much more. And so it's the more focused you get in your business. So it's not just picking things randomly, because I know that's something that people think they need to do with a niche as well. Like, oh, it needs to be this type of person. Like, I need to only work with accountants, for example, but it's not that at all. It's just thinking about what's working in your business and kind of doing more of that. And I say, the more focused you can get and the more tailored, that's the things that you should be thinking of.
It's got a lot of parallels to personal branding, really, because it's more about finding what's working and pushing hard on that versus letting it come entirely from outside of you and being kind of overthought that way. So to that end of the parallels with personal branding, I always say that a personal brand should be somewhat portable, meaning that you can apply it to multiple things. So in terms of staying on brand while either niching down for the first time, like maybe you were a generalist and now you're communicating that you're a little more specific, or even shifting niches. What are some effective ways that people can communicate that while still maintaining the brand equity that they've been building all along?
Yeah, so I mean, I see there's three elements in it that goes into a niche, and that is the who, which is something that people say go to and think about. There's the what, which is actually what you're doing, so kind of going from that jack of all trades to a specialist in one area. But also I would say the you is the third aspect, which is your personal brand. So it's thinking of your brand as an element of your niche. So they very much work, as you've said, very much hand in hand. So ways that if you are pivoting or you are changing how you say are communicating your business, there's a few different ways that you can do this. So depending on what that change is and how drastic it is and things like that, your messaging is obviously really important. So it's changing and adapting that messaging so people understand what it is that you are now doing and that you're now specializing in. And you don't necessarily have to kind of broadcast it in a kind of, this is now what I'm doing, but you can as well. But things like content,
you can change your messaging without changing your tone. Like, you can still be conveying a new message with the same basic voice and feel. I think that's where a lot of people get lost.
Absolutely. And, things like content is a really good way of testing things out and kind of doing that more kind of subtle approach, really, of changing what your focus is or what your business is about. And because people will pick up on that, whether they realize or not. If you start talking about something else or you start shifting and talking about something, they're going to pick that up.
Yeah.
But yes, in terms hopefully, of your personal brand hopefully if you're saying the right things, it's connecting with them, because that is, as I say, that's the key. It's not just doing things randomly. And, same as with a personal brand, you're not just picking random elements. It has to have some element of base of you and what you want to do. It's not just picking, which is where things go wrong. And I think that's where people get really worried, because one of the things that I come across, and I'm sure you've heard, that people get scared about choosing their niche because they feel
actually a question that we have here from the Tuesday chat. The most common misconception people have about the concept of niching down. And Maiko, also, who asked this question, also helps people niche. So she would love to hear what you are dealing with clients in terms of misconceptions people have.
Well, the first one is that people feel they have to choose that who. As I was saying, there's three elements, and it's kind of a balance of those three things. So people will think, I need to pick this type of client, and I don't have a type of client, more kind of demographic or industry or things like that. People think, I need to pick yoga teachers or I need to pick accountants, whereas that's not the case at all. It's looking at who your clients are and thinking, okay, what connects them in terms of how they're thinking and feeling, those pain points, those problems, and what do they, what's that transformation that they want? What's that yeah, what's that after? How do they want to think and feel instead once their problem is gone? So they're the key elements to be thinking about, not necessarily if they are a yoga teacher or an accountant. And if you do have a certain sector or a certain type, fantastic, go with that. But don't choose one just for the hell of it because you feel you need to have that. How your client thinks and feels is the most important thing. And then that goes on to why, the fear that people have of, oh God, if I choose a niche, I'm going to be, chopping out a whole load of clients. I'm going to lose clients.
People feel like it'll limit them.
Absolutely. Whereas that's not the case at all, because you're doing something in your business that's working. So it's doing more of that. So you're not making anything up, or you're not just choosing something at random, or you're not. Yeah. So if you did decide to choose accountants, for example, I always use accountants, for example, for some bizarre reason.
Well, there's loads.
I know, and it's a good good like business, like your accountant. Everyone knows what it is. But if you've never worked with accountants, for example, or you've only ever worked with one accountant, and if that is the case, then yeah, it is a bit more risky to go all in on accountants if you don't have them in your audience and you haven't worked with them before, because you won't understand them as much. And that's the key. It's understanding your clients, which is why if you start making stuff up, you won't have that connection to them. You won't understand them in the same way.
Our friend Tim is wondering, are there any niches you'd recommend that people avoid?
Oh,
or even ways of thinking about niching down that you'd recommend that people avoid?
Well, I think kind of like, as I was saying, like just choosing something because they feel they have to, or rushing it as well. Like I think people sometimes feel a bit like how you asked, like, how does someone know, which I don't think I really answered, how does someone know if they're niche enough, or not niche enough, or however they like to look at it. But it's always just seeing how can you tweak. And we're always finding, no matter how, where you are in your business journey, you're always finding out more about your clients, about how they think. Maybe it's certain language they use. So it's always just keeping your kind of eyes and ears out, really. So whenever you're talking to a client, whether that's before you start working, whether it's during you're working with them, whether it's after you've worked with them in like a testimonial or something, it's always listening to what they're saying and thinking, okay, is something coming up that maybe I can focus in more on? How can I change what I'm doing to make even better connection with my clients? So it's doing that. So I'd say it's, as I was saying, it's not so much a niche that's bad, because it's all dependent on your business, but it's maybe how you go about it. And I know, say when I work with clients, when they realize it's not just that and there's actually the what, so it's what you're doing is different, because another aspect of a niche is that it makes you stand out. It's the reason why someone chooses you over someone else. Very much like a personal brand.
Yep.
We don't just want to be the same as everybody else and saying exactly the same thing as everybody else, because that means you'll end up, if your potential customer has got a couple of you or a few of you that they're looking into to working with, and you're all exactly the same, it will end up coming down to something like price, which you don't want to be caught up.
Yeah.
Exactly. You don't want to be competing on price. You don't want to be seen as you have to get work just because you're the cheapest, because that's a really bad model to be getting into. So it's thinking about what is that thing that makes you different, that makes you stand out, that you can make those connections with someone, make it really easy for someone to choose you. And in that way, you're not having then any competition in a way, because
there is no
someone is working.
No one else is you.
No, exactly. So people are choosing you because they want to work with you, and they're coming straight to you because of you and what you do and how you do it and all those things. So it's that aspect as well.
And what you said is so important about how you make them feel is kind of the most important thing. Tim is saying that he had a conversation about that with David Allison about how values are way more important than demographics. Anna Brand, who is a branding expert herself, is pointing out that the psychographics are more important than the demographics. It's all about appealing to their emotions because that's what we make decisions based on.
Absolutely.
Which wholesome media is all for. They're really great at getting into that personal element.
Absolutely.
So similarly, we've got. I feel like I'm focusing on some of the negatives here, but people have questions about it.
Why is it such a bad idea?
I know, but another question that we have from our chat on Tuesday is David wants to know, besides the obvious benefits and potential pitfalls of niching down, are there some things you've learned to help avoid those pitfalls, to help make that niching journey kind of make sure that it's going to go the right way?
Yeah, as I say, it's thinking about what is happening in your business. So it's seeing how you can make those connections. So a real key area is to really get to know your clients. This is something we should always be doing at all times, but it is so important. And it's surprising how many people don't like talking to their clients, to get to know them better, to find out more about them. And it could just be as simple as, getting them on a call or doing a bit more research in Facebook groups or asking in your own Facebook group or social media. And I think this is a really good place to start in just getting to know more about what your customer wants and what they want from you. Because I think in any business decisions that we're making, if we're making them by ourselves, kind of from ourselves and not actually seeing what it is our clients really want from us, that's a big mistake. Because we can get very excited about things, or we think, I've got a really great idea and this is what I want to do. But if it's not something that our clients want or that they connect with, or just how we're communicating it might not quite resonate in the right way, I would say that is something. And I think that's with a niche could potentially happen, because if you think, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going to go, but actually it's not resonating or connecting with your clients, that could potentially be a bit of a not great idea. But if you're talking to your clients all the time and you're consistently doing research, and getting to know them better, and you can do this in your operations of your business, like when you're having a discovery call or a sales call or whatever you like to call it, when you speak to someone before you work with them, is a really great opportunity to find out more about them. It's not just to try and make sure you're saying the right things that they'll want to work with you, or worrying about how you're going to sell your service or product. It's a really good opportunity to get to know them more and actually how they're thinking and feeling, and what they actually do want, because that could help you later on down the line, whether it's something like content or whether it's actually with your services. Similarly, when you onboard a client is a really good time to, once again, get to know your client that little bit better by asking them really great questions that that you get the answers of questions that you want. And similarly at the end as well, with testimonials and feedback forms and things like that, is a good time to ask people how they think, how do they feel now compared to when they started working with you, and all those sorts of things. So I would say, just get to know your clients as much as you possibly can. And that will really, really help with all business decisions, including, what your niche might be or where you can focus that little bit more.
Yeah, it sounds like all of these are opportunities for market research that can be done specifically on our market, which is so important.
Yeah.
Got another question from the chat. Why can't I turn this one off? There we go. Another question from Tuesday's chat is, do you have a niching checklist, sort of a list of things that people should sort of go down when they're looking at not only niching to begin with, but also possibly even reassessing?
I have a little it is a checklist, but it's to see how niche you already are, rather than necessarily a checklist of you need to do this, this, and this, but in in seeing those answers, you then get a little explanation of what you need to be doing and what you need to be focusing on. So I do, but it's in a slightly different way. So so I do have that, but it's not so much you need to do A, B, and C. But I have blog posts which tell you how you can niche, how you can start thinking about that.
And a podcast.
And that, yeah, and podcast episodes. Basically. Yeah, exactly. So I do have loads of content out there that helps you do this and where to start, and goes through those the who, the what, and the you, and how you can start to think about those and how you can start to formulate your niche from those. So yeah, I don't necessarily have a checklist in that regard, but yeah, I have various blog posts that help you to do it.
Now, how long ago did you decide to really put yourself out there as the niching person? And how did you do like a launch as, this is my thing now? Or was it, I'm sure it was more gradual to come to what it would be, but how did you make that transition, and how did you clearly communicate that as a brand?
I think, I'm trying to think of what I actually, how my business was before.
I'm sure it's different. It's like, what did I do before I did this?
Yeah, it was, I think it was just a bit more general, or it was more focused on brand, I think. And then it started to make that shift because once again, I actually was helping my clients with what they were asking from me. And that started to come out as, I help people with kind of USPs and how they can stand out and what makes them different. And then it kind of grew from there, really. And myself got a bit more specialized. But I would say how the main things that I started doing that really made myself known for doing this was doing things such as this, like doing masterclasses, being on podcasts, those sorts of things. And that definitely got me known a lot quicker than if I was maybe waiting for people to come to me and realizing that I've changed my website or whatever. So
yeah, it's just that visibility can help so much. People don't even remember that my thing wasn't personal branding until like September. And I made sure that that was a really big, I guested on podcasts and live streams and Twitter chats, and just really got the word out about, hey, I've changed my live stream show to now be about branding, and hey, I have a Twitter chat now. And it can just help so incredibly much. So Tim's got another question. Tim's always good for questions. He's wondering, can you over niche? And is it better if you're going to err towards one side or the other? Is it better to err towards the too broad or to the too narrow?
I think you definitely can potentially over niche if you are focused on just trying to be specific for the sake of it. So, and I say, it's a journey. You don't have to rush it, which is really important. And that could mean that you do it over a series of week, like if you're seeing things happening, you can tweak them as you go. But if it's a slower process, that's absolutely fine as well. So I would say that, but the key is, so rather than it being like a too narrow a niche or a too wide one, for example, it's thinking about, is your messaging relating to your clients? If they're not, and it's too broad, because I'm sure we've all heard that if you try and do everything for everybody, you end up doing nothing for nobody, or whatever that phrase is, because you're not going to resonate. If you're trying to be too broad, it won't connect with anybody. So I think if your messaging is not connecting, then that's maybe you could narrow a bit more. But if you've gone too mad and you've gone to you've focused too much, and maybe there's not enough clients that you know of yet, that don't realize that's what you're doing, or you've kind of focused on that one client that you worked with, whereas actually you've You should be thinking more about the 5 clients you've worked with or 5 types of clients you've worked with than perhaps. But if you're doing it as you go and you're doing it gradually, you shouldn't get to that stage. It shouldn't happen, because you're always working on what's being given to you, rather than you're just doing things because you feel you have to. So it's very much a kind of listening and watching scenario. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of the thing to get out of not doing that, but say it shouldn't be something that happens.
That makes sense. One thing that I definitely have heard a lot when I've been talking to people about their personal brand and really trying to get, I mean, niching is a huge part of it. You really have to get down to the specifics of what someone's going to be known for. And people say all the time, they say, but I can do this, that, and the other thing, and I don't want people to think that I can't. I always tell them, I'm like, well, this is just the beacon you're, shooting up into the sky so that the right people see it. But other people will find you. People find me all the time for all sorts of things I don't do.
Yeah.
But I think that they're worried that there isn't going to be enough business if they get specific. I think that they're worried. I deal with this with realtors a lot. Real estate people are like, well, I can help people downsizing to a condo. I can help people upsizing to a bigger house. I can help people with their first home. I can help people with an old house, a new house. And they're so worried that if they put themselves out there as, someone who knows a lot about old houses, that's the only business that they'll get, and they're worried there isn't enough. So I guess one of my final questions is, how do you get around that fear of really worrying that there won't be enough there for you, and how can you kind of avoid that issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your example there with all the different types of real estate agent, like if you're known for something, you're going to have more people gravitating towards you because they are going to have that problem that you solve for them. And that's where it's all about getting the right messaging that's going to really connect with those people. But at the same time, if you're known for something and people know you, it makes it so much easier for people to recommend you, to know that once they do have that problem, that you are the one. You will become front of mind. You will be the first person they think of, rather than if you just did something generally. It's harder for people to know that's what you do. You might think you're being more helpful by offering like everything and anything, but actually it's making it a lot more confusing for them. And that's the key to remember. You don't want to be confusing. You want people to know exactly what it is that you do and what you help with. But also, as you said, Christine, like people come to you and ask you things anyway, and then it's up to you if you want to work with them or not. Or you can see it more as a hook. So, that's the thing that makes people come to you, but then you can offer other aspects, or you can help them with other things once you're working with them, or however you like to work.
That's a really good point. It can be what gets you in the door, but then you've got freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, it's, and I'm, we've all been there, I myself, where it's like, oh, what, I can do anything. I could help with all sorts of things. Yeah. And it is really tempting when you can, when you could do these things, but also it makes your life easier. If you're focused on one element rather than trying to do 10 different things, you are focused on that. All your content is to do with that. All your brain power is all focused on that thing. You can get really into it. And it's if you think about other industries where you are the client, so for instance, a doctor, you're going to want to go to a specialist who, focuses on, say, stomach issues because you've got a stomach issue. You're not going to want to go with a general doctor that does all sorts of things. And why is that? Because they live and breathe that subject. Yep. They're going to be the right person. It's going to be the person that's going to answer your problem, or solve your problem the quickest and the best way. And therefore you trust them more. That person is going to be the person that's going to help you, rather than someone else who, may well give you the exact same answers and do the same thing. But the fact that they are focused on all these different things means they might not be quite as up to date, or they might have forgotten something because they've been
that don't come up as much.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's that's something to really think about, in that you are known for that thing. I can't quite remember what your question was on that.
No, that was perfect. And it makes
how to kind of
it makes the decision-making process easier for the consumer too, because if they're deciding between someone who does a bunch of things and someone who does what they need, they're going to go with the person that they need, and that's a fantastic thing. All right, absolutely. So we're wrapping up. Amy, tell people where they can find you, where they should find you, where you would like for them to find you.
Yeah, so if you want more help with getting clear on your niche and really mastering your messaging so you can really connect with your clients, so you can grow your business a little bit more, then come and join me in my free Facebook group. That's the best place to find me and to have conversations, and that is Unleash Your Niche is the name of that group. Or if you want to follow me on social media, then come find me on Instagram. That's the best place to find me. And I am at Amy Caiger Biz on that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Amy, for being here. You are awesome.
Thank you, Christine.
You've been on my list for a while because I was like, all right, well, niching and personal branding really go hand in hand. So I'm glad that we got it together. I'm hoping that I will be over on your side of the pond. Sometime within the next year.
Just hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me, Christine. It's been great.
So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here today. I am here every single Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time on Facebook and on Twitter. I would love to hear where you've been watching us from. And I also have a Twitter chat on Tuesdays, also noon Eastern. I keep things simple, called Chat About Brand, which is on the same topic, only without a guest. I am actually figuring out next week's guest and topic, so definitely stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter, on Facebook, and stay tuned for Chat About Brand on Tuesday, and Let's Talk About Brand on Friday. Thanks. Bye.